Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on mastering product content orchestration. This session is being recorded, and all registrants will receive a link to the recording in the coming days. We will be taking questions throughout today's call. You can submit those questions via the Q&A or chat panel. If we cannot get to everyone's questions during the webinar, we will collect them and follow up with you individually. The presenter for today's session is Randy Mercer, Chief Product Officer at OneWorld Sync. We're also joined by members of the OneWorld Sync product team who are here to help answer all your questions. And now I'd like to pass it over to Randy Mercer, Chief Product Officer at OneWorld Sync. Randy?
All right. Hey, thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. And as always, just want to start by welcoming everybody to the call today and thanking you for your time. We know everybody is busy, especially in this season where everybody's trying to do a lot of different things. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes out of your day so we can share what we're up to and how we think you can help, or how we can help you rather. So anyway, I want to start with a couple of statistics, as I always do, to reinforce what we already know. But just as a starting point for this, we continue to do a lot of polling of a consumer population in the interest of just understanding the evolving expectations of consumers. And the reality is we're all consumers, right? There's probably not anybody on this call that hasn't bought something online or bought something somewhere over the past or the recent history. So when we think about what those consumers are saying, it just reminds us of what we've heard, with the exception of one of these stats that's maybe a little bit different here. And starting with when folks are buying things today, if you read that first stat, 9 in 10 shoppers, you go to a lot of different websites to research things that they're buying. And it's even more than that, right? So sometimes you end up buying it in brick and mortar. So you may see it there. You may research it online while you're standing there. But the expectation is that I'm going to find that thing online. And when I do find it online, the overwhelming percentage of folks, they have an expectation that they're going to see similar information from one place to the next, right? So why do they go to multiple places if they think they're going to see the same stuff? Well, because often they don't, right? So introduce the confusion that exists around making a purchasing decision when I do see conflicting or different information or content from one site to the other, right? So when I look at these two stats, it makes me think about, if I was a brand, what would I be sharing in terms of content, and how would I be doing that? And how comprehensive would I want that content to be? And that's what I would endeavor to share, right? In my job, I talk to our customers every single day, one or two of them. And every one of them, I look at the content they have in our system. And I often find myself asking them, hey, why don't you have more images? Why don't you have marketing copy? All of those kinds of things, right? So this all leads back to some of these stats and what folks are expecting to see as they research to make some buying decisions. Now, the one that's a little bit different today, based on our current economy, is this one here. 74% of shoppers really doing a deeper job of researching things just because of inflation, right? So if I'm going to buy some consumer packaged goods stuff, right, where it maybe isn't at a price point where if I make the wrong decision, get the wrong thing, I'm going to go to the trouble of returning it. Oftentimes, I'm probably just not going to use it, and I go buy something else. Well, today, just due to inflation and the rising costs of things, I want to make sure that what I buy and what shows up in my house is the stuff that I actually need, right? So it just reinforces the importance of the information and the content that you're using to pick products online, whether you're a brand or retailer. It is more important today than ever that this content be comprehensive, accurate, very thorough, and so forth. So as a starting point to what we're talking about today, I just wanted to just remind everybody of those stats. Again, reinforce what we already know, but it feels like some people forget. So I wanted to share that. So all of that makes sense. But how can I do that? How, as a brand, how do I share the most compelling content across my organization or across the marketplace when things are always changing, right? Super fast moving market. My products change a lot, especially in the CPG space. The retailers and what they want to show and how they want to depict my items, those requirements and those expectations change. And then, as the last slide talked about, the consumer's expectations change. So how do I do that? So when you look at the challenges associated with that, as an organization that is trying to do the best job possible of representing my products in the marketplace, when we talk to our customers, and we go to a couple couple conferences every day or every year where we get a chance to talk to the folks, just like everybody on the call here today. And these are the types of things that they tell us more and more. Going back to a couple of weeks ago when we were at JS1 Connect, we just heard these stories over and over, and starting with just siloed departments, right? So when you look at the content that we're trying to share today, it is a mix of logistical content, height, width, depth, all those things that you need to know just to operate your supply chain and get the product on a shelf if it's going on a physical shelf, or get it in the right place in an automated warehouse, whatever that is, all the way to marketing content. Two very different types of content, often coming from different places. And what we continue to find is there's multiple teams in these organizations often that sometimes don't even know each other exist. Or they maybe know the other team exists, but they don't know who those folks are. So it leads to just very limited collaboration relative to the content being shared and how it's being shared. And at the end of the day, frustrated teams, right? They're just not quite sure what's being shared across all of their channels, to all of the different sales opportunities or retail channels. And I say frustrated teams, but I would advance that to say frustrated consumers, right? Because that's ultimately what those stats, can tell us that can lead to, is that the consumer's not seeing consistent content. They're going to be frustrated, may not make the buying decisions that we hope they would. Constrained workflows, right? So when you think of everything that has to happen just to share a picture, right, down into the marketplace, you got to take it, you got to manage it, you got to QC it, get it approved by somebody in your organization, share it out into the marketplace, then make sure it's actually getting used, and then maybe determine if that picture is depicting my product as best it can, right? So lots of things have to happen. And so when you don't have very consistent workflows and you can't draw the right people into those workflows, you end up with just not moving as fast as you can. You don't get your product on the shelf as fast as you wanted. And you end up sidestepping processes to do things manually, to try to do it faster. And that just leads to other problems that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And then we hear this all the time, duplicative resources. We have multiple teams doing the same job for different retailers or different this or different that, right? So just lots of different folks. So wasted effort, right? When you can be doing it one time and service most of your content distribution needs versus 50 times, the wasted effort that goes into that is pretty obvious. And then that just leads to just everything costs us more, right? And at some point in time, that cost gets injected into the marketplace, costs go up, prices go up, and so forth, right? So all kinds of problems associated with just that basic challenge of how do I do this? How do I make this process work as well as it can? Last year, we did a very thorough exercise with a lot of our current customers and then some non-customers. And as part of that, we asked those folks, what are the challenges that you have today? And how, and how can you best solve those, right? So when we looked at that and preceding the answers that we got, what they talked about were the people involved in these processes and how they wish they could connect these teams better to just align the process, make it work a little bit better. The processes themselves, right? Just think of a basic change to an item attribute, what that goes through in terms of the people internally to the organization that need that visibility to it. And how do you get that update out into the marketplace? I used the example of a picture just a few minutes ago, or an image. All the things that have to happen just to update the image of my product for whatever reason I may be doing that. And then lastly, just the assets themselves. Think of the image, right? Just all the pieces that go into getting that image updated. If you're using someone like the One World Sync image service, right? You got to get that product to us. We're going to run it through our process and create that image. We're going to get it back to you. You're going to prove it, right? So this long workflow that goes into that. And we asked those folks to describe what that meant to them. And there was a word that kept coming out, like unprompted. We just said, describe how you think about this. And we heard things like this. When I think about getting the right content, the right folks, right? I think of just the orchestration of that process. How do I make all the right things happen by the right people in the most efficient way possible? And so you think about how do they orchestrate that? Another one of those, I won't read it verbatim, but it's the same thing, right? When I create content and, certain people have to look at it, approve it, and all of this kind of stuff to make sure it's accurate and the highest quality to represent my product. I think about how do I orchestrate that process, right? And how I make that happen. And just one more. all the way from the very beginning, taking the picture or shipping the product to us so we can take the picture, all the way through getting it approved, getting it in the right system so you could share it right. How do you think about orchestrating that? So it was just this recurring theme. So we've adopted that as in terms of how we think about how we can help our customers. And it just over and above what we used to think of, how do we help you get high quality content? All right. Well, everybody knows they need high quality content today. So now how do you take that to the next level? And how do you orchestrate that process so that everything works the right way as quickly as possible and introduce that efficiency? So that's what you're going to hear us talk about going forward is this concept of orchestration, and what are the solutions that we have that contribute to just very thorough, comprehensive orchestration of this process of sharing content out in the marketplace and ultimately selling more stuff, which is what we're here to do. So I'm going to look at this slide from a few different angles that talks about what we think is the orchestration maturity model, right? So as an organization, how mature are you relative to how you orchestrate all of these processes? And then we'll just keep looking at this and talk about some of the things that we can do to help in that regard. So when we look at our customers today and we listen to the stories that they tell us at conferences or just in individual conversations that we have almost daily, we hear stories ranging from just absolutely ad hoc processes, right? They just almost don't even have processes. That's just manual work effort that's going into just one item at a time, trying to scrap things together and ultimately get it somehow out into the marketplace, right? And you can imagine how that would introduce some inefficiency into the process. And we'll look at some of the end results of that here in just a minute. For the folks that have it a little bit more together than fully ad hoc, often it's still inconsistent, right? So they maybe have their arms around the content, but just the way that they orchestrate getting that into the marketplace, it's inconsistent. Teams that don't know another team is doing something similar and they collide with one another, or they end up sidestepping folks and doing a few things manually, but it's just inconsistent. And the end result of that is you don't ever know exactly what content actually made it down to the marketplace. So maybe not a competence level relative to how your products are being represented, across all of the different channels. And when we talk about channels, we often forget about the internal channels, right? Who are the folks internally that need to have access or visibility to all of this content so that they know how the products are being represented in the marketplace, right? Think of sales folks or marketing folks. They need to understand how, finally this stuff is being marketed, right? So inconsistency in terms of how these products and the information are being represented and how that process is being orchestrated, right? When you get into consistent, so folks that take it a little bit further. So now they've got some processes wrapped around how they're doing that. You still have significant issues that can occur there when you don't have your arms wrapped around maybe some of the finer elements of the content, how it's being kept accurate, how you're keeping your right teams with visibility on that product, right? I'm going to keep harping on that. How do you make all of this stuff very visible to all of the stakeholders? You've got more eyes on it and it just all works better. Let's say you're doing all that stuff great and you're getting all this product out into the marketplace to represent your products. Is it impactful, right? Maybe you don't know. So, I'm just getting some stuff out there. We're selling some things, but are you selling as much as you possibly could be? That's where you need some tools and processes that lend themselves to helping you understand, could I be doing it better, right? How do I take what I'm learning from how much I'm selling, the feedback that I'm getting, the ratings and reviews on my products, take that back to the very beginning of the process and improve my content over time in the interest of just selling more and more and more, right? Which again, is what we're all here to do. So when we look at the things that show up as indicators of some of these, the levels of maturity, right? So when you look at ad hoc, it's a lot of things, right? So, we reference new teams. So introducing new people to the process. And we see that a lot. Teams turn over a little bit, folks, move somewhere else in the organization. And so a new person is taking it over. So we see that a lot where you just, everybody's just not as educated as they need to be. The one that I would call out the most there is wearing multiple hats, right? So we have a lot of customers where they've got a person that is responsible for all this and it's not their day job, right? It's something they're doing kind of when they have a few minutes, they're worrying about pulling content together, getting it in our system, getting it out into the marketplace, and just all of the things that go into this all working really well. That's the one that we just hear that over and over and over. And there's lots of ways that we can help with that. I'll call out that last one just quickly, rely on individual files, spreadsheets, right? See it all the time. Folks have this information and just all scattered all over the place, and they're trying to manually pull it together, and it's just there's no process around it. So we'll look at how we can help with those things from an inconsistency perspective, right? Just things like as our product matures over time and we sell more and more of it, and we're selling it across more and more channels. It's just more things that you have to have your eyes on. And I talked earlier about when the consumer looks at a product online, he's looking to see the same stuff on every website, right? The more you have it on there, the harder that job gets, right? So we see this all the time is just the growing breadth of channels that you're selling a product in contributes to inconsistency and something we always want to avoid. Bottlenecks with workflows, again, sometimes it's just I don't have enough people involved. Whatever that is, if you look at the third bullet point, the inconsistency in terms of or the transparency across our teams in terms of who's doing what. We see it so much between master data folks and marketing folks, all just go in different directions. They don't even know what the other team is doing and when. So all lends itself to inconsistency. When we get to a point of consistency, right, things that we commonly see as challenges that's related to that is just having all the content in one place within the organization or somewhere aggregated. And when you look at organizations and how they manage content today, it very typically is in multiple systems. PLMs, PIMs, ERPs, whatever that is, they've got it just all over the place within the organization. So when you think back about what I talked about earlier about how do you give internal folks visibility to the content that is representing your products in the marketplace, and one of the easiest examples of that is I'm expecting sales folks to go out and talk to buyers at retailers to have conversations about new products. And if that salesperson doesn't have visibility to the information that is going to be used to represent that product online, how do they hold a credible conversation, confident that what they say about that product as they're talking to that buyer is actually what's going to show up online, right? It all starts with having it in one place. So you can give visibility to that salesperson very, very easily. So all kinds of things that when you get to a point of consistency, you've got some processes wrapped around it, all kinds of things that you can do to improve that and basically increase the revenue, just sell more stuff online. And then finally, impactful, right? So I'm doing a great job of getting the content out there. How do I know it's working, right? With a focus on that feedback loop, optimization, right? I've got it online, seeing all this content, seeing my products online, great. But when I start reading the reviews, maybe there's something that I'm hearing in that regard that's telling me that maybe I'm not informing the customer correctly or as well as I could be, right? So how do you use that as a feedback loop to, as we always talk about, optimize your content? Come back to the beginning of the process, improve your content, whether it's SEO, imagery, could be all kinds of things. But if you want to really lead the market and just dominate with your product, those are the types of things that you have to do. All right. So in time for the typical poll question. So I'm going to let Scott go ahead and kick off this poll question. And I think it is, where are the levels of, where do you see yourself relative to those levels of maturity? And what this helps us understand is it helps us understand what are the things that we should be talking to our customers and the different segments of customers about to where we can help them the most. So always interesting to see kind of where folks see themselves at. It's like inconsistent is taking the lead based on our stats at the beginning. It's where we would want to help folks the most, I think. All right. Is that it? Okay. All right. So inconsistency seems to be the one that just really dominated the results there, which tells us, a lot of folks, they've got their arms around some of the basic elements of these processes, but just not to a point to where they're confident that the products are being represented consistently across all channels. And I keep talking about sales channels. The reality is some of the channels aren't sales channels, right? When you think about things that you do on your corporate website, for example, where it's just informational to the consumer. Anybody can come there and learn more about your products. Of course, you want that to be consistent with what is going to be on any site at which they could buy it. Think of transparency initiatives like Smart Label, right? So aimed at consumable products. You're going to represent your product there, and there you're doing it for a very specific reason, right? Consumers want to know what they're using, around their families, what they're feeding their kids, all of those kinds of things. clearly the level of consistency that you want represented there. And then let's say a nutrition fact panel that's showing up on an e-com site, not consistent. All kinds of bad things happen in terms of consumer trust and just the ultimate result on how much stuff you sell. So interesting results there. And so what we're going to do from here is we're going to talk about what are some of the things that can be done to contribute to improving upon whatever level of maturity you just said you were at or where you think you're at. How do we improve on that? And so when you look at the ad hoc, think of that person that's trying to do everything and how they're spending their time, or even if it's bigger times or bigger teams of folks that are doing those things, how are they spending their time? And when you think about how maybe you could impact that, if there's pieces of that you can automate, and we refer to automating the creation or automating the creation and updates of content. There's all kinds of other things that can be automated as well in terms of approval workflows and things like that. All of that is just basic things that you can do to just evolve from an ad hoc type set of processes to not the best but inconsistent. Start working your way up that maturity model in terms of how you're orchestrating the process. Again, we hear it all the time: the friction between brands, the manufacturers, and their trading partners, right? Whether it's retailers or those internal teams, the sales guys that just want visibility to this content. And just when you're dealing with all those different expectations, it starts creating friction if you're just not in a place of automation, not in a place of consistency in terms of how you think of these orchestrating these processes, right? So how do you fix that? In our system, it's things like retailer playlists, right? As a brand, how do you go in there, look at a product that you're planning to publish to a specific retailer and know that you're populating the right content, right? And you're not just going to publish it and then they're going to have to come back and tell you, hey, you missed something, do it again, right? And so going back to the first part, where are you spending your time? Hopefully it's not redoing stuff, right? So that's what things like playlists can help you do in the system, is get the content right before you send it out versus having to react to, complaints from whoever it is, salespeople or retailers about you just didn't do it right. So go back and try again. Using a PIM to just streamline all those workflows, just very easy way to just impact and move from consistent or from inconsistent to consistent, right? When you're consistent, you got great content, you're getting out to the marketplace. How do you just get it to more places, right? How do you make it visible to more people? And again, what folks often forget about is the internal people that need visibility to that content so they know how to talk about that product when they go talk to a prospective customer, right? So how do you increase that visibility internally, externally, whatever the need is, get it out in more places in the interest of consistency. Think of product catalogs, just built directly from the content that you're putting in the One Wilting platform in the interest of getting it out into the marketplace. Just repurpose that, use it to build a catalog that now provides visibility to your sales folks, your marketing folks, even externally. You can expose it to consumers as well. And it's absolutely consistent with the content that is going out into the marketplace. Wouldn't that be great? So relative to impactful, now we've got great content out into the marketplace, and how do we use that to just continually optimize how we're performing in the marketplace, ultimately to sell more stuff, right? Product bundling on e-commerce sites, right? So taking using capabilities that bundle like product to the thing that maybe I'm selling. If you're a retailer, just a great way to sell more and service the consumer better, right? If you're buying this, you don't want this stuff to go with it, and make sure that the stuff that you recommend is absolutely bulletproof. A great way to just sell more product, right? And then just the analytics relative to how you're represented in an e-com scenario, right? Is my product, I think my product's on this e-com site, is it? Right? I think it's priced correctly, is it? I think it's in stock so I can actually deliver it to the consumer, is it? Or is it saying that it's out of stock and it really isn't, right? So the second as a consumer sees something's out of stock, probably aren't going to buy it. So if you actually do have stock in the warehouse and it says out of stock, clearly all kinds of bad results are going to occur. So all of those things relative to how I'm performing in the marketplace come into play. Again, go back to ratings and reviews, or how do you know what consumers are saying about your products? All very, very important. So when we distill this now down to just very specific solutions that we have that can help in all of this, right? Think of from an ad hoc perspective, how do you start automating just the item setup, right? And the updates associated with that. just the basic elements of that product, and how do you just keep that consistent and current, make sure it's accurate, and how do you automate that? We've got solutions in the realm of what we think of as product information management solutions, or gateway solutions that allow you to just very easily get content that maybe you have aggregated internally, get that into the One World Think platform. It's just a launching pad for getting it out into the marketplace. We have services that we call data loading and maintenance for the person that's wearing 50 hats, trying to do this as a second job as part of their day. Let us do the work for you, right? Just give us the content in any form you have it, and we'll reconcile it. We'll pull it all together, do some basic checking relative to its completeness and readiness, and we'll get it into the system. We can even publish it to the retailers for you. And then just a very basic one, product photography. See it all the time. Folks do not have as compelling imagery as we hope they did or wish they did. So just send us your product. We'll take beautiful imagery for it in every angle you'd want, marketing images, planogram images, GS1 compliant images, you name it, we can do it. 360 spins. Just take that work completely off your desk. If you're doing it with an iPhone in the back of your warehouse, we can probably help you with that and help you scale that. Moving up into inconsistent, I talked about product information management tools before. It's one of the biggest things. We hear this come back in every single conversation we have about, man, it'd be great if I just had this a tool that just did so much of this for me and helped me with the orchestration of this. It starts with a PIM, and we can help you with that. We've got different variations of that depending on your level of sophistication relative to what you're trying to get to, the number of products that you have. All kinds of things go into how much do I want to think about that, and we can help you in a lot of different ways with that. Digital asset management, when you think of the most basic piece of e-com content that you need to get out into the marketplace, how do you make sure the right images are going to the right e-com channels, being displayed on my internal catalogs? All that just lends itself to the concept of digital asset management. We can help you with that. It's built into our core platform. The one way that once you know it's there and how to use it, you can probably get a lot of mileage out of that. And then I talked earlier about retail playlists and IM. A playlist, for those of you who don't know, it's a set of rules that tell a brand, this is what you should be populating for this retailer, this transparency initiative, this whatever, right? It's rules that help you understand what you should be populating for all kinds of different reasons. And the whole idea here is then instead of waiting for a retailer to send you a scorecard to tell you you're not doing a great job, would it be great if you just got it all right in the first place? And you knew when you got the scorecard, it's going to be better and you're not going to get beat up by your boss about doing a bad job, right? So that's the whole idea behind playlists. Get it right up front. So at least you know you've got the basic stuff going out to the marketplace in the right way. And then I'll think about how do I improve that later based on the results I see in terms of sales. From a consistency perspective, I've talked a lot about getting content in front of as many folks as possible, all based on the same set of data, right? So when you look at the data you're putting in our core platform and you're sending it out into the marketplace, right? How do I give my sales guys visibility to that? How do I give my marketing folks visibility and confidence relative to what's going on in the marketplace? How can I even get that in front of consumers? All based on the same data, this thing called digital catalog. It is exactly as it's named. It is a digital catalog of content, searchable, exposable across the internet visually, so that you can just very consistently represent your product in front of the eyes of the folks that need to have visibility to it. Content One is a capability within our core platform that allows you to expose your content one time to lots of different endpoints, right? So instead of publishing content individually to folks, and there's still reasons why you may want to do that, but there's a huge population of content consumers on our platform that you probably don't really care too much about anything specific relative to that guy. So expose it once using this Content One capability and get a lot more mileage out of your content. And just a note on that, it's not just everybody on the planet. Nobody can just log into the One World Think website and just start taking stuff. It is approved recipients of that content, no different than if you were publishing independently to them. You just don't have to do that, right? So a great way to get more mileage out of your content. Rich content syndication. When you think about images and marketing copy that you see at the top of the product detail page, when you look at it on an e-com site, most e-com sites today allow you to inject some much richer, more deeply representative content of your products a little bit further down the page. And we call that rich content. It goes by lots of different names on different sites, but we have that capability, allows you to build out much more content over and above what you see at the top of the page in your carousel and marketing copy. Now, it all starts there. It's the great way to enrich and enhance what the consumer is seeing and learning about your products, right? And then the last thing, brand and corporate website. So I talked about, again, consistency, getting this stuff out all over the place. And if you think about on your corporate website, where you may have representations of your product, just for the general consumer that comes to your website to research your products as a starting point for maybe making a buying decision, what they see there better be consistent with what's on the e-com sites, right? So wouldn't it be great if it was the same information that ultimately does go out to the e-com site? So we have all kinds of capabilities within our core platform that allow you to do that very easily. So whatever your level of sophistication there is in terms of how you manage that brand website, we can typically inject the content right out of our core platform, same content that's going to end up on an e-com site, inject that onto that corporate website in such a way that you're just guaranteed consistency. And then just finally, we're doing a great job and we just want to do better. We want to sell more stuff. So from the impactful column, the guy that's out there, what are the things that we have that can help you do better? And I'll start with retail e-commerce analytics, something that we announced probably 2, maybe 3 months ago. I can't remember, but a new offering within our portfolio that helps you understand how are you being represented in e-com land? Are my products being priced right? Are they, being shown in stock, out of stock correctly? Do I have the right content out there? All of these things that contribute. If you just know what's happening, you can do something about it. But if you don't know what's happening, obviously you're not going to. I talked about product bundling, right? How do I on an e-com site. So if I'm a retailer, how do I introduce some additional products to a consumer who's buying product XYZ? How do I just guide him? Tell him, hey man, if you're buying that, buy these things too, or you might consider it. Make sure those things are accurate, and you're going to increase cart size and ultimately sell more, and everybody benefits from that. And then rich content analytics. So in the previous box, I talked about rich content syndication, right? Syndicating some deeper content that represents my product, over and above the carousel and the marketing copy. So how do I know that's working? Is the consumer even looking at it? Is he not compelled by it? Because we know the longer he looks at it, the more likely it is that he's going to buy that product. So how am I keeping him there, keeping his eyes on it, which means I'm educating them. I'm telling them more about the product. They're going to trust it more. All these things that we can tell you about how that rich content is really working for you, right? So using some of those solutions, great end results, starting with the people doing the job, right? So everybody is, as we say, they're in harmony, right? They're all working together. They're all shooting at the same target. And at the end of the day, this transparent communication that can typically result from very nicely orchestrated workflows to keep all the people involved in the right time, more efficient use of everyone's time is a very typical end result from a process harmony perspective, right? Just the workflows that go into creating content, updating content, moving into the marketplace, understanding how it's working for me, all of that. The more you can streamline that, and again, keep the right people in the process at the right time, or maybe the right systematic processes being triggered at the right time, those streamlined workflows are going to go a long way toward achieving the level of content orchestration maturity that we're all hoping we can. And then product asset harmony. Efficient content strategy, right? So if I'm thinking about how am I going to get images of my products in the same way every single time so that I always know when I'm ready to syndicate that product, I've got the things that I need. Having a process around that is just one of the key places. A very easy way to start that is just send us your product and we'll do all that work. We'll create all those images. We'll get them in our core platform for you. They're just going to show up and then you can send them out into the marketplace or approve them and then sending out there. So all of these great things happen when you leverage some solutions to just increase your level of maturity relative to how you're orchestrating this process. So over the rest of the summer, we're going to continue to be doing some webinars that are just going to help our customers, whether you're on the brand side, the retail side, the distribution piece in the middle, whatever that is, help everybody understand how they could be leveraging some of these solutions or capabilities within the solutions that you're already using today, just to continue to increase your maturity. So starting there in the upper left, content creation, right? All the things that we can do to create almost every piece of content for you, if that's a need. Item management overview. How do you use our core platform maybe in ways that you didn't even know you could, right? How do you manage your digital assets in there, for example, and manage the distribution of those assets hear it a lot. People didn't even know the capabilities existed to do that in a better way. So we're going to educate folks on that. Content delivery, how do you get it out into the marketplace, and all the kinds of things that we can do to help you with that. In the upper right, content optimization, just using a feedback loop to continue to improve your content, do more with it in better ways. Product content for private label, right? If you're a retailer and you've got some private label products, then you're subject to all of the same things that your typical brand is, in terms of, you got to create some content, you got to get it out into the marketplace, whatever that means to you. Lots of different things that we can help for that private label product concept. And then finally, product photography workshop, right? What are the things that we can do as part of our product photography services? And even going beyond that, we can create product images through CGI. So we'll talk about all of that. So I think with that, we're going to do a quick, just a little advertisement for those events. If you scan that QR code, I'll leave it up there for just a second, tell you all about when these things are occurring, so that you can make sure to join the ones that you want to. And with that, I think we're going to do a quick poll question here about, of the things that I just discussed on that last page, what are the things that jump out at you in terms of the things that I would want to hear more about? And maybe you didn't see the one topic that you wish we would tell you more about. So if that's the case, check other here on the poll, and then follow that up, if you would, with an email to hello@oneworldsync.com, or reach out to your account rep if you know who that person is, and just let us know, like, what could we be doing educational activity on that would just help you understand things more that you're not quite understanding today. So just some great feedback here already. Automation of the content creation process, right? The basic use of our core platform, item management. So some nice results there that tell us we could go back and do some education on some very basic things, and it's going to help our customers. So those are the types of things that we have planned. And they're the types of things that we'll focus on. Again, for a couple of responses on other there. So for those folks, please shoot an email to hello@oneworldsync.com and tell us what other means, right? What are those topics that we should be drilling down on and providing more education on? Okay. So with that, I think that is what I had prepared for you guys today. So from here, we'll go into Q&A, and there may have been some Q&A activity already happening that I wasn't watching very closely, but I know we had other folks monitoring that, maybe answering those questions. But if there's more, happy to answer them at this time.
Yes, there were a lot of great questions. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciation. I was typing as fast as I possibly could. One question I was actively trying to respond was someone asking, saying, hey, we are populating content as best of our ability, but it seems that other data pools are not ingesting it. It's just not landing and taking it further. The answer to that is that One World Sync, we influence the GS1 roadmap. We're always trying to make sure that we are just exposing your needs as far as attribution and simplifying and harmonizing those accordingly. So as other data pools do or don't participate, feel free to voice that accordingly. But truth be told, we are all about animation. We don't supplement with kind of services on the outbound. So there might be a little bit of a gap. So bring those specific details to us so we could chase those all the way through the pipeline, and that should be a good solution. Another cool question, a couple around artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you didn't get a chance to read my response. We actually at One World Sync quite a few years back started exploring this. We knew to keep up with you guys and all of your needs. We definitely wanted to flex that. And to be honest, when we first looked at it, it wasn't pretty. Of course, technology, ours and otherwise, have evolved. It's been fantastic. You might see examples of this if you're in item management, in some of our tools. So nutritional fact panel upload, where you upload the image of nutritional fact panel, we strip it out and ultimately map it and surface it so you can make corrections before you import it into our system. That's a cool way that we've done it. Another way is hero generator in our image carousel. So Those two things actually behind the scenes, when we're trying to automate your service, we have something called content acceleration where we do the same thing. We strip the content from your image and we ultimately find a home for it. Above and beyond that, what we do is we auto conclude some stuff. Like someone might say, is there a battery in it? We know based on the category and the contents of the package that no, there isn't. And you're going to say, why would I populate that? Well, the more robustly you can populate something, that's going to help your placement on your website. So that SEO thing, people usually think it's about just marketing copy. Nope. It's also about the robustness of the content and the speed to market, of course, you can get that product content onto the website. So as much as we can help you auto-conclude and generate, we definitely do that. So let us know if you're looking for something different, but that's how we satisfy that today.
Yep. Hey, just a couple of notes on that. And I see just a message in the Q&A, a question in the Q&A about scraping, and do we have a scraping bot for AI and ML? And so as Karen mentioned, it's something we've had our eyes on for a long time, and not just eyes on. I mean, we're doing it. But we've actually been doing scraping in some product categories for a long time. And it's the basis for how we help customers and retailers come about content that actually exists somewhere on the internet today. And we look for very specific sources to do that. So we do not just scrape random places to get that. So we're looking for credible sources when we do that. We do that for a long time. But with our retail e-com analytics offering that we announced a couple of months ago, that is the basis of it, right? Is we're going out to very specific digital properties and we're scraping content to understand things like pricing anomalies, content deficiencies, in stock, out of stock weirdness, right? Where, we know it's not out of stock, but it goes it is, those kinds of things. So beyond that, net of all that, we're already doing some of that stuff. We're going to be continuing to introduce more and more. An example of that, when you think of generative AI, right? So something that will generate content for you. And the very typical example today, if you think of services like ChatGPT, what folks are using that for is they say, hey, tell me about my product, and use these keywords and blah, 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 right? That's all well and good. It's great. But the generative AI is relying on information that it's seen somewhere else and it's learned from. If that information doesn't exist, not going to do a very good job, but it can still serve as a starting point for how you can create content, especially a marketing message, maybe feature value bullet points. So what you're going to see relatively near term within our core platform, item management, is the introduction of a generative AI feature that will write marketing copy for you based on other things it's seeing in your product, right? So let's say the description, net content, a few of those things that we can contribute to a prompt to that capability or return you a marketing message. So if you're that guy that's doing everything, wearing a lot of hats, that can be very helpful as a way to start creating a copy. Now, what we would always say about that is today, it's never bulletproof, right? It's never going to, necessarily use the words you want it to. So we're going to give you an opportunity to take what's generated out of that API, touch it up a little bit, and then say, all right, apply that to my product. So that's just one example. Lots more to come relative to how we're going to be using AI and ML specifically to improve content for the folks on our platform.
Great. And then a lot of conversations and questions around what's the best practice into adopting exactly what you said, really aligning my internal teams on a process so we can move up on that maturity scale. So many said differently, questions around this. So if you'd like to connect with us, we do that all day long, right? If you let us know, this is our current stance. What we'd love for you to be prepared with was creation. How are you creating images today? Do you love it? How are you, how long does it take to do it? Is it the right naming convention and angles and robustly as possible? What's the cost and how are you expediting it, getting to all the channels if possible? Whether it's importing it to your sales collateral, we do that instantly at One World Sync. Whether it's getting to trading partners, what about bringing it back to your brand website? So as you're looking for how hard are these images working for you, let's follow it through that whole trail. Next thing will be that regular old content. So we'll keep on starting to unpack the different elements of your product, whether it's imagery, content, that below the fold or inline solution in your product collateral, and saying, are there efficiencies to generate that content? Are there efficiencies to importing that content? Are there efficiencies to getting it in the hands that it needs? Oftentimes people will say, man, we don't have it on our website. We can't keep up. helpful, we have a hyperlink that we could certainly help you expedite that on. That will give internal and externals the proper and concise, defined visibility that you determine appropriate, um, proper accesses. That alone has unleashed and unlocked so much visibility and insights so people can determine, geez, I didn't know we had this content deficit. I had no idea this is what retailers were seeing. So we could certainly consult on that, but really focus on those four kind of buckets of creation, management, delivery, and then optimization will be your final gold star. But focusing on those first three first will be a great best practice.
Hey, just quickly, I know we're at the end of time. Going to go over just a little bit. I just want to quickly speak to a couple of things that I see here in the Q&A. One of those is just mention of food service and the complexity that introduces to what you already may be doing from a retail channel perspective, speaking to one-to-one mapping and so forth. The short answer to that is do we have some things in flight related to that? Short answer is yes. We have a lot in flight related to melding some of the things that happen from a food service perspective, knowing it's just wildly different than the retail channels, trying to bring that all together in common places. So if there's some specific things you want to learn about what we're doing, please shoot us an email and we can tell you more. I can get you in the right hands that can tell you more about what we're doing from a food service specific perspective. The last thing I want to talk about quickly is there's a question about localization or translation. If you've been watching the news, one of the last things we did in terms of how we've been bringing a lot of capabilities into the One World SIG family over the last couple of years. The last one we did happens to be a footprint in Europe. And part of the reason we did that is to contribute to what we're doing from a localization perspective. We just want to be able to represent things in the market better. And that's going to contribute to it as a starting point. But the other thing I want to talk about, going back to what I had just mentioned about using AI is not a silver bullet for translation, but it's a great place to start. So when you look at things like marketing copy and so forth within the item management, our core platform, the ability to represent that in multiple languages has been there forever, right? Is it highly used? Probably not as much as it could be and should be. So just like we're going to use generative AI to create marketing copy or help folks do that, the next plan is to use translation AI to help create different translated versions or localized versions of copy in IM as well. So just know that that's coming. We do some of it today, but we're going to be doing a lot more in the future. And just that German footprint that we now have is going to help us contribute to the European markets much better than we were able to service them before. So I just wanted to throw those links out. All right. With that, probably out of time, so time to close it up. I want to thank everybody for joining today. We always appreciate you giving us our time. Looking for your feedback. hello@oneworldsync.com is where you send that and let us know what you want to know more about. We'll tend to focus on that in the future. So with that, thanks everybody and have a great day.